Hello and welcome back, adventurers. This is Captain TTRPG, and today we're talking about Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Ceramic pots and dinnerware shatter as they strike a terracotta floor. Gruff words are tossed about the small room. A girl not yet 17 lies beaten, her ears ringing. She reaches out for her parents only feet away, feeling for a pulse. They live, but only just. The ruffians rifle through the belongings of the prone family, occasionally pocketing the odd, semi-valuable object while destroying everything in their path. The girl, having trained to fight with her parents, was unable to stop the intrusion, but has summoned the courage to attempt to get help. Getting to her feet as quickly as she can manage, she stumbles to the door. Unfortunately, her captors are quick to make up the ground, and as she throws open the door, her feet leave the ground as her face makes contact with the mud outside. The rain is heavy upon her, unusually so. Larger of the two invaders looks on and laughs before preparing to gather the girl. This rain, dense yet invigorating, carries with it the spirit of a deity. It pours into the beaten child as she feels a surge of strength within her. Pushing against the dirt road beneath a layer of thick mud, her form rises up once more, but doesn't stumble. Her head snaps about as she looks into the eyes of her would-be pursuer, and fear grips him for a moment. Like lightning, she clears the distance between them. As the spirit of the divine consumes her fists, she lands a blow directly into the jaw of her foe, instantly knocking him unconscious. The second bandit, realizing the gravity of her predicament, an instant change of fortune, attempts to run to the back door. A pulse of energy flows through the girl's fists and into her wristlets, and a magical rope lashes out, pulling the fiend back. The spiritual energy yanks her backwards. Unable to escape, the woman begs for mercy, but none is to be found, before she too lies unconscious on the ground. Taking stock of what has transpired, the girl ensures her parents are safe before finding the aid of others. Welcome back, adventurers. Today we are talking about the Exemplar class. These are demigods, classic heroes of myth, filled with the divine energies of a god who is no longer with them, whose very essence has rained down. Exemplars are martial characters. They choose either dexterity or strength, so you can go different ways with your exemplar, as you'll see lots of different directions. They do get 10 hit points per level, so same thing as fighters and rangers, all that. They are proficient in martial weapons, light and medium armor, so that's nice to get the medium armor in case you want to go strength builds. They could easily play up front, frontline kind of brawlers, sword and shield types, two-handers, but they could also be in and out skirmishers or purely ranged combatants. You're also trained in perception and reflex saves and expert in will saves, fortitude saves, and that's kind of nice right away to get the will saves in there because that can be pretty damaging. This is definitely a build your own style kind of subclass design, and you're going to get to choose 3 parts that make up your subclass. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But first, again, base stat is either dexterity or strength. You choose. You will inherently be good at acrobatic, stealth, and thievery, of course, if you are going with with dexterity and athletics for strength. There are plenty of ways, depending on what you choose for your subclass, to be more stealthy and ranged if you want to go that option. And you can easily play a melee build. Grappler, any kind of weapon, you name it, this will fit for this class. The Exemplar has 4 level 1 features that are really key that we need to discuss, and then we'll go a little bit beyond that as well. The first one to start off with is the Icons. I keep dancing around this because I didn't want to say it before we got here. Icons are objects, items, or just elements of your body that are infused with or can be infused with divine energy. Each icon has 2 abilities. One is called an immanence ability. It's a passive ability. And the other is a transcendence ability, which is an action or activity that is definitely not passive. Icons can acquire more immanence abilities or transcendence abilities from feats. So you'll be able to add more into this. If you take a feat that could add to multiple different icons you have, you choose which one it goes into. So if you've got multiple that do fit, it doesn't get to go into all of them. You start at level 1 getting 3 of the icons, of which there are 21. So lots of options, and I didn't run the numbers before I recorded this, but I can put it up there. The combination of 3 that you can get, so we'll give you the total number of possible subclasses, if this is considered your subclass. Each icon is one of 3 types: worn, body, or weapon. Beyond that, each icon has a usage that describes, kind of what kind of object it goes into. This really only matters for weapons, so it might specify it has to be, swords, daggers, things like that. Whereas body and worn icons, might specify the eyes. Okay, well, as long as you have eyes, you'll be fine, right? And for body, it could be, a sash. Well, you can just say you have a sash on. So a lot of this is easy, but the weapons requirements do actually matter. And finally, your Divine Spark, which is what this is all tied back to, can only be in one icon at a time. So what you're essentially doing is you're either moving your Divine Spark from one to another to get its bonuses, or we'll talk about how else it can transfer from one to another. So while the Divine Spark's in an icon, you get its Imminence ability and you can use its Transcendence ability. If it's not in that, if your Divine Spark's not in that icon, you can't use them. So we talked about Imminence and Transcendence. Let's get a little deeper on Imminence. This is a passive feature of the icon. So again, as long as your Divine Spark is in that icon, you get that bonus. So, and an example would be if you have an Imminence on a weapon that gives you +2 spirit damage per damage die on your attacks, great. That means you get always having that extra damage on your attacks, unless your spark's not in your weapon and it's somewhere else, and then you don't get that bonus damage. If you have more than one Imminence ability on an icon, like I mentioned, you can get some feats that will add to it. All of your Imminence are on at the same time when your spark's in the icon. And keep in mind that if your spark leaves the icon, that means you lose the passive benefits once it leaves. So Imminence done. Let's talk about something called Shift Imminence. This is a single action that you can use to move your Divine Spark from one icon to another. We'll show another way that it can move, and hopefully this isn't what you're using very often, but it can be really important that you're able to just move it from one to another. You can't move one to itself. Hopefully that was self-explanatory, but I wanted to just call it out. You can't just say, well, it leaves the weapon and it goes back in. No, none of that. It has to go to a different icon. Also, when you roll initiative, you get to do this action for free when you roll, meaning you get to start combat with your spark in whatever icon you want it to actually be in. All right, we're getting there. Transcendence. Transcendence is an action or ability that is on your icon with your Divine Spark in it. So when you use your Transcendence ability, could be one action, two action, whatever, you're going to trigger whatever it does. And if you have an Imminence that plays in there, you still have the advantage of the Imminence. And then after it's complete, after the action is done, then your spark has to go to a different icon. Or if you only have one icon, because you took this as a multiple archetype, it goes into your body, but that's a different topic. Otherwise, normally, when you're playing an Exemplar, you use your weapon Transcendence, you strike after you're dealing damage or miss. Your Divine Spark's going to flow into maybe, your boots or your wrists or your scar on your face, whatever your other icon might be. If you have multiple Transcendence on a single icon, you choose which one you do, so you can only use one, and you can only do a Transcendence once per turn. So even though you might have multiple one-action Transcendence abilities or something, you can only use one Transcendence ability per turn. So those are the really big parts at level 1 for an Exemplar. A few little things. You do get the shield block reaction for free for part of the class, so if you do wield a shield, you will be able to actually raise it as a reaction. If you use a basic weapon, so remember we got the basic weapons and then martials and advance. So if you use a basic weapon, the damage die size of the weapon actually goes up by one size when you're using that. If you're just because it doesn't get as many traits as martial, and you get to kind of boost it up. So look at those basic weapons; they will actually hit harder for you. How about any higher level features? Again, I started this with the rogue, but I think it's important here as well. We do have one big notable feature that you get at level 3, and then there'll be versions of it at higher levels called epithets. These are kind of parts of a title. So at level 3, you're going to choose your first, called the root epithet. An example would be the Brave. So you are Wilhelm the Brave. And then at level 7, you'll get the Dominion, which adds something else. So in this case, let's use Whose Cry is Thunder. You are now Wilhelm the Brave, whose cry is thunder. And finally, Sovereignty at 15th level, and it kind of finishes it off. An example would be the Last Ruler. You are Wilhelm the Brave, whose cry is thunder, the last ruler. And that's building it out. Now, these aren't just titles, they have a purpose. So, once you have at least one epithet, they're going to grant different bonuses, and these bonuses occur when you spark Transcendence. So an example of one of these might be, oh, you can run toward an enemy after you spark Transcendence. Great. So I attack, I deal damage, I get rid of that enemy, and now, because I chose a specific epithet, I get to run toward this other enemy. Cool. It's a nice bonus. Once you have more than one, you can only use one though. So I'm at level 7, I've got a Dominion and a Root. I spark Transcendence. I can either use my Root epithet ability or my Dominion epithet ability. And it's very important to note also that these happen after the Spark Transcendence is done doing whatever it's doing. So you Spark Transcendence, finish whatever's going on with Spark Transcendence, then trigger your epithet. Okay. Not as straightforward as some other classes. We're probably in the realm of something like an Inventor, though, and not as bad as a Kineticist. So I like to think we're in between things here. So how about those icons? Well, there's 21 to list. We're not going to go deep into them. We're just going to talk about them real quick because in the next video, we're going to get real deep on all of them. Let's just get through them real quick. First of all, what are they going to give us? They give us a type, so body, worn, weapon. They're going to give us a use, meaning what it's with, what kind of thing it can be. Imminence ability, transcendence ability. We will name all of those for all of these. Starting off with Bands of Imprisonment. This is a worn item. It's for anklets, bracers, or a circlet. Your imminence ability is +1 status bonus to will saves and resistance to mental damage equal to half your level while the spark's in there. The transcendence is called Break Free. This is 2 actions. You can, if you are grabbed or restrained, try to break free with a +2 bonus. Whether you had to break free or not, doesn't matter. As long as you are free, though, then you get to move up to twice your movement speed and make a melee attack if you end up near an enemy. So even if you're not restrained, it's still 2 actions to run twice and strike, saving you a little bit on your action economy. But breaking out is an extra bonus. Barrow's Edge. Weapon for melee weapons dealing slashing or piercing damage. The imminence is strikes with Barrow's Edge deal 1 more spirit damage per weapon damage die. And this is 3 damage per weapon damage die if the creature is below half health. The imminence ability is called Drink of My Foes. It is 1 action. Sorry, the transcendence ability is called Drink of My Foes. It is 1 action. Your last action had to be a successful strike with Barrow's Edge. So you struck, you dealt damage, and then you get to regain hit points equal to half the damage you dealt with that strike. Eye-catching Spot. This is a body icon. It is on the face. -1 circumstance penalty to melee attacks that are coming against you. That's your imminence ability. Transcendence is called Captivating Charm. 2 actions. You force a creature within 30 feet to make a will save against your class DC, and it becomes fascinated by you, which doesn't break when you take hostile actions against its allies, which is great because that's a big problem with fascination. However, your allies' hostile actions are still going to be a problem, and there's other ways to still break the fascination, and it's still not a great ability, but it's different. Fetching Bangles. This is a worn icon for bracers. The imminence is you have a 10-foot aura around you. If an enemy tries to leave that aura, it has to succeed on a will save against your class DC, or its move is simply disrupted. The transcendence is called Embrace of Destiny. 1 action. You choose an enemy within 20 feet. It must succeed at a will save, or it's going to be pulled directly up next to you in one of the squares adjacent to you, so you can just pull people back. Gaze Sharp as Steel. This is a body icon for the eyes. The imminence ability is a +1 status bonus to perception checks and a +2 to AC versus ranged attacks. The transcendence is a moment unending. For 1 action, your next successful strike deals 1d6 extra precision damage, 2d6 at 10th level, and 3d6 at 18th level. Gleaming Blade. It's a weapon icon for swords or knife group weapons, as well as unarmed strikes that deal slashing damage, and there are some. The imminence is that strikes deal +2 spirit damage per weapon damage dice as a bonus. Nice. The transcendence ability is Flowing Spirit Strike. 2 actions. You make 2 strikes at the same target using your current multiple attack penalty. If your weapon doesn't have the agile trait, you do take a -2 on the second attack, so really minor though. Then you combine the damage if both strikes hit and do it all at once. And this is for resistance and weakness triggering. But if there's any precision damage in there, you only deal that once. This counts as 2 attacks for your multiple attack penalty after it's done. Hands of the Wilding. Weapon, this is for melee freehand weapons or melee unarmed strikes. The Imminence ability is strikes deal 1 spirit splash damage per weapon damage die, which you are immune to, so you won't hurt yourself. The Transcendence ability is called Feral Swing. This is 2 actions. All creatures in a 15-foot cone make a basic reflex save against your class DC. On a fail, they take damage equal to a normal strike of the weapon, but it's all spirit damage. And you can impose a -2 penalty to their chance to save, but you become off guard until the start of your next turn. So a little bit of trade-off. Horn of Plenty. This is a horn icon. It's a wallet or bag, some sort of container. This holds This holds up to 1 bulk of potions and elixirs. It gets to make 1 free elixir of life per day. This is 2 at 8th level and 3 at 16th level. So you're going to get some free stuff with it. The Imminence ability is you can grab out a potion or elixir and drink it for 1 action. Normally it's grab for an action, drink for an action. You do it all in 1. Transcendence is Feed the Masses, 1 action. You grab and drink something, but instead of it giving you the bonus, it gives the bonus to whoever you chose, this ally within 60 feet. If it's a hit point related thing, though, you can split hit points regained between you and the ally you choose. Mirrored Aegis. This is a worn shield. Your Imminence ability is a 15-foot aura that grants a +1 status bonus to AC to all allies in that area. If the spark sits in this for at least 10 minutes, the shield will also regain all of its health, because of course shields get damaged. The Transcendence ability is called Raise the Walls. For 1 action, you raise your shield, which counts as raising a shield, and you summon ethereal shields around you and 1 ally within 15 feet. You both get a +1 status bonus to AC, reflex saves, and saves against Force, Spirit, Vitality, and Void effects for 1 minute. Mortal Harvest. This is a weapon icon for sickles or any axe, flail, or polearm. The Imminence ability is they deal 1 persistent spirit damage per weapon damage die. Transcendence ability is called Reap the Field for 1 action. If your last action was a successful strike, you stride up to half your speed and make another melee strike against a different creature using the same multiple attack penalty as the last strike you made. After both, then you add the multiple attack penalties for both strikes. Noble Branch. This is a weapon icon for staffs, bow staffs, fighting sticks, even polearms and spears. The Imminence ability is 2 spirit damage per weapon damage die added to your damage. The Transcendence ability is Strike, Breathe, Rend, 1 action. If your last action was a successful strike, the target of your last strike takes spirit damage equal to Noble Branch's weapon damage dice, including from striking runes, but nothing else. So none of the flat damage and no extra things besides the striking runes, no extra runes or anything. Pelt of the Beast. This is a worn cloak or belt icon. During your daily prep, you're going to choose cold, electricity, fire, poison, or sonic damage. Your Imminence ability, you gain resistance equal to half your level to the chosen type that you made at the beginning of the day. Environmental heat and cold are also 1 step less severe for you. Transcendence is called Survive the Wilds. This is 1 action. You can change the type of protection, you don't have to, that you chose at the beginning of the day. Until the start of your next turn, you have a 15-foot aura granting you and allies +2 circumstance bonus to AC and saving throws against effects with that trait. So things like a dragon's breath or something would fall into this as well. Scar of the Survivor. This is a body icon. It goes into your skin. The Imminence is that you have the ability of the Die Hard feat, and you get a +1 status bonus to Fortitude saves. Transcendence is no scar but this, 1 action. You regain 1d8 hit points, and it goes up by a d8 every 2 levels. There you go, you can just self-heal. Shadow Sheath. This is a weapon icon. It goes into a holster that can hold a one-handed thrown weapon of light or less bulk. If you spend 1 minute to load a weapon into this that meeting the requirements, it means that now you can summon a copy of that weapon into your hand to throw as a free action. The Imminence ability. Strikes with your thrown weapons produced by the sheath now deal an extra 2 damage per weapon damage die. This goes up to 3 if the creature is off guard. Transcendence ability is Liar's Hidden Blade, 1 action. Your last action was an unsuccessful strike. You now make a second strike with the multiple attack penalty from the first strike that missed, but the creature is now off guard, which then you add the multiple attack penalty for this afterward, of course, and you also get a free action at the very end of this to pull another weapon out of the sheath. Skin Hard as Horn. This is a body icon, goes into the skin. During daily preparations, you're going to choose slashing, bludgeoning, or piercing damage, and deal that to yourself, although you don't actually have to take damage for that. The image ability is you gain resistance equal to half of your level to that damage type. This doesn't work against critical hits, though, only against normal hits. The Transcendence ability is Crash Against Me, 1 action. Until the start of your next turn, your resistance is equal to your full level, not half of it. If attacking creatures uses a weapon of that type, meaning a weapon that deals slashing, bludgeoning, or piercing, and hits, but somehow deals no damage because of the resistance or whatever, then the creature will become off guard and have a -2 circumstance penalty to its attacks with that weapon until the start of its next turn. Skybearer's Belt. There's a worn icon. It goes into the belt. The evidence is that you can shove, grapple, trip, or disarm creatures 2 sizes larger than you, and you get a +1 circumstance bonus to these effects you're trying to do and saves against them. So you want to grapple somebody, +1. Somebody tries to grapple you, +1 to your resistance against that. Transcendence ability, Bear Allies Burdens. This is 2 actions. You stride, and at any time, if you are next to an ally, a willing ally, you can pick them up, and then any other time along the path you're on with your stride, you can set them back down. This also works with swimming and flying. Starshot. This is a weapon icon for ranged weapons, any ranged weapon. The imminence is you deal 1 additional splash damage per weapon damage die. Transcendence is Giant Felling Comet. This is 2 actions. You detonate a 5-foot burst within 60 feet of you. All creatures in that area must make a basic reflex save against the normal strike damage of your weapon. Any creature larger than you gets a -2 to their save, which is awesome. Thousand League Sandals. This is a worn icon, goes into your shoes. The imminence ability is a +10-foot status bonus to your speeds, just flat out. The Transcendence is Marathon Dash. For 1 action, you stride. Each ally in 10 feet of you, or sorry, I should say in 10 feet of your starting position, can stride as a reaction. Titan's Breaker. This is a weapon icon. It goes into melee, club, hammer, axe, or unarmed melee strikes that deal bludgeoning damage. The imminence ability is 2 additional damage, spirit damage, per weapon damage die. However, this damage and all spirit damage dealt by the weapon can hurt constructs and objects that are normally immune to spirit damage, and it even bypasses hardness, which is nice. Hardness equal to your level, at least. The Transcendence ability is Fracture Mountains. For 2 actions, you strike, and if you hit, you deal 4 extra damage per weapon damage dice instead of 2, and you add 1 more weapons damage die onto the damage. Starting at level 10, this is 6 spirit damage per weapon damage die, and you add 2 extra weapon damage die. And then at level 18, this is 8 damage per weapon damage die. This is 8 damage per weapon damage die, and 3 additional dice. That's a lot of dice. Unfailing Bow. This is a weapon. It's for a ranged weapon. The imminence is 1 damage per weapon damage die, but it becomes 1d4 on a critical hit. Your Transcendence is Arrow Splits Arrow. This is 1 action. If your last strike was a successful strike, you attack the same target with another shot, only this time you don't roll. You still have to take a multiple attack penalty, so you're still going to take a -5, but you don't roll. Instead, you use the same value that showed on the dice from the first attack. Now, the only thing to call out here is if it was a 20 before, it's still a 20, but it's not an automatical increase in the success level. So it's not going to be a guaranteed crit just because it's a 20, but if it's a 20, that still means that there's a good chance you got a crit, because with multiple attack penalty, you probably only went down to 15, and you've still got a good chance of that being a crit. Okay, and that gives you a taste of all of the different icons now that we've run through them, which is cool, so you can start thinking about how you might combine them to make a full build. And now that we've talked about pretty much everything you choose at level 1, let's go ahead and talk about the level 1 feats you could take to round out the options you're choosing at level 1. Starting off with Energized Spark, you get to choose between slashing, cold, bludgeoning, electricity, fire, metal, a whole bunch of different damage types. So whenever you deal spirit damage, you could instead deal this type of damage. So it gives you a backup in case you don't want to deal spirit damage some of the time. Although spirit damage is pretty reliable. Sanctified Soul, you make all abilities that deal spirit damage, you give it the holy or unholy trait, which can trigger weaknesses. You'll also have the same trait yourself. So, if you chose your weapons to have the holy trait, you also have the holy trait. So if somebody attacks you and they, have some way to trigger extra damage to holy creatures, you would take that. So just keep that in mind. Twin Stars. You imbue this into a one-handed weapon icon, and for one action, you can split your weapon into two weapons, so you have a copy of it that you're dual wielding. You can use one action then to put them back together into a single hand if you want to. Both are considered your icon for the purposes of what you can, transcendence abilities and imminence and any runes on them and all that. It's a true copy. Vow of Mortal Defiance. This is one action. You can't be sanctified to take this. So if you're already holy or unholy, you can't take this. But if you're not, you choose an enemy within 60 feet that has either the holy or unholy trait. Then you deal an extra 1d6 spirit damage to it each turn when you hit it with an attack. So a nice damage boost against those types of creatures. We're going to talk about a couple higher level feats as well. That was all of our level 1s. So let's jump into a few others. Leap the Falls, level 2. You put this onto a body icon, and it adds an additional imminence ability to where you have powerful leap and quick jump, the skill feats, active when your spark is in that icon. This will, of course, only work when it's in that icon, though. But keep that in mind, you can get powerful leap and quick jump on demand, basically. Additional icon, level 8. You have 4 now. 4 icons, in case you needed more. Crown of Rule. This is level 16 and a transcendence ability. You imbue this onto a worn or body icon. For 2 actions, you can create a 15-foot burst within 60 feet. All enemies, only enemies in that burst, must make a basic will save against your class DC. Then, because of basic save, they take damage, this time equal to your level, straight up, so 16 when you take it. On a failure, a creature also has to drop to its knees, making it prone as a free action. But it's not a free action to stand back up. And of course, they're off guard to any attacks that are going to come at them while they're prone. Now that we talked about feats and all your basic level 1 stuff, let's talk about my class breakdown graph. All right, so Exemplars are not as versatile as Spellcasters, and with a relatively limited set of feats, at least at early levels, they fall behind some martials as well, but what makes up for it is all the variety of icons at level 1, which is a huge variety. Yes, the weapons don't offer much more than straight damage, but worn and body icons offer a ton of options. And because you've got all of this, all of the different things they can do are available to you at all times. Then the feats that grant more transcendence options or more imminence, they add even more variety to what you're really capable of. So to me, this still lands in a nice point of versatility at a 3. As far as single target damage goes, this is really a strong pillar for the class. A straight martial like it is, no surprise single target damage is good, but the various weapon icons can deal truly fantastic damage. This will help you keep up with the barbarians and the rogues and stuff like that, even though fighters are still kind of the single target damage kings. Well, actually them and barbarians, fair enough. One thing to note is that they can still be quite good with bows, and a lot of other characters actually struggle with bows, but they do great with bows and thrown weapons because their icons always add damage on top anyway. They really can do a nice job, even from a ranged perspective. So yeah, this is definitely a 5. AoE damage, though, isn't their strong suit. And while there are icons with some AoE damage built in, there's not a lot. As you level up, even as low as level 4, there are feats, though, that grant you AoE options as well, so do take a look at those if you're worried about that. Are they strong AoE options, like caster strong? No, we're not in that realm. But they're still not terrible, and they give you something that you can do that does allow you to take out minions, potentially. And they're above what some of the other martials get, which is nothing at all, so they're going to land very mid here as well with a 3. Support. Not usually the crowning achievement for martials, and yet Exemplar can hit hard here too. Can you make a selfish Exemplar? Absolutely. You can definitely do that. But with the ability to create powerful buffing auras, both offensive and defensive, it's hard not to see the support character you can play. I've gone back and forth on the score here because clerics and bards, they aren't. But I think they still manage a 4 if they want to build for it. Control is in a similar spot to support. If you choose the right icons here, you can be a solid controller. I don't think there are as many good control options as they were for support, so I'm going to drop this down and say really it's only a 2 here, but there are some interesting things that you can do. You know what, actually I do think it's a 3. You can see it in the screen here. So yes, support was definitely stronger, but there are some good options, and there are feats and epithets that really do lean into this as well. Finally, we have survivability. Exemplars have solid hit points, they can use medium armor, and are definitely built to be in melee. With icons available to aid in survivability, they can be tough to take down as well. There are always ways to make yourself less survivable, of course, which is funny. But for the most part, you can wade in and make it all work out and really stand up at those front lines. So, yet again, this is pretty strong for Exemplars with a 4. All right, let's talk about Exemplar builds. They're going to vary quite a bit, often based around your icons. So your icon's really going to tell you what kind of build you're doing, which is what you're going to see on screen here. Regardless of choices, though, it'll be either strength or dex based. So if you're going for two-handed weapon builds or sword and board type builds, I would recommend something like a strength, then constitution, because you'd be up front. With choose a mental stat, I like charisma getting the +1, but you could go wisdom or int. And then you want to have still +1 of that dex, because you are using medium armor and you still need a boost from dex in some small way. If you're going to go ranged, meaning bow builds, not thrown builds, specifically like bow and gun builds, dex is going to be your primary. I suggest a mental next. So I like charisma to be high here, just because I like charisma. This could be a good wisdom or intelligence choice. And then another mental stat plus constitution, because you still want those hit points. And then leave one of the mental stats and strength for the end. And finally, for thrown weapon builds, thanks to Shadow Sheath, I'd go with a dex then strength setup so you can get extra damage on those thrown weapons. Followed by a mental stat. Like I said, I like charisma. And then constitution after that. You can drop 2 of the mental stats, though, pretty easily here. When we look at builds, it's hard to say the easiest to play, but I would suggest the following 3 icons for a very straightforward melee build with a very simple pattern, but it still has some great options for what you can do with your turns. So starting off, I would take Gleaming Blade. It's a solid icon, it hits hard, it's reliable, the damage is easy to figure out, so simple to use, simple to understand. Victor's Wreath. The Transcendence is a little harder to understand, but the Imminence is really great. A nice +1 bonus to attack rolls for you and allies nearby. Everybody gets a little out of it. It's a nice place to store your spark when you're not having any Gleaming Blade. And finally, Scar of the Survivor. This is another one that's very nice for a beginning player. First, because it helps prevent death, which is nice. But it's really because the 1-action Transcendence is a nice little self-heal. You always know how to use a self-heal, and then you can get it back into your weapon or your Victor's Wreath. As far as the rest of the build is concerned, you've got the icons I mentioned, and then for a weapon, just take something straightforward like a greatsword maybe, something that hits hard, big 2-handed weapon. You could easily go with sword and board here though. Also, just take any medium armor of choice, right? Something that usually takes less dexterity is my suggestion. There's definitely some good options in there, but choose something common that just takes +1 in dex to fill it out. And then for stats, I go +4 in strength and +3 in constitution to make sure you can take hits up front, with 1 in charisma and 1 in dexterity. And finally, what level 1 feat am I taking? I'll take Energized Spark Electricity, just can be something to trigger other than spirit damage if I want it. I may never want it, but it's nice in case I come up against something that's resistant to spirit damage. Now that we've talked about how I would build a nice, straightforward, easy level 1 character, let's get into an example of Exemplar gameplay. Our town has been overrun by the undead creatures that once roamed these parts. The people managed to get a single message out, and a lone hero has managed to come to the aid of the town. The one known as Miwai, a warrior with a divine purpose. He is repulsed to find the ravenous, animalistic undead roaming free. Though skeletal, the creatures feel his presence immediately, and initiative is rolled. Our hero manages to roll highest, and as a free action moves his divine spark into his sash, his Victor's Wreath. With a leap, he meets his foes on their level. He strides and swings with his mighty sword and attempts to strike a nearby creature. With a low roll of only 8, he would miss, but thanks to the +1 from his sash, he strikes the creature still. He deals 1d12 plus 4 damage, this time for a total of 11 slashing. Unfortunately, the creature's resistant 5 to slashing will only take 6 damage here, which won't destroy its form. Now keep in mind, while it's 11 damage, most of that is slashing, there's still 2 spirit, and that doesn't get resisted, but we still end up with a total of 6. Wolves are ready for battle. The first is not quite in the right location. Uses a special 2 actions to stride 3 times to get into flanking position, but is now off guard. It then bites with a -2 AC to our hero, and manages to succeed at its bite, dealing 5 damage out of Miwai's 21. The second wolf, snarling, attacks with its jaws twice, both landing, though just barely, dealing a total of 9 damage. It then jumps away, preparing to rush in. Moai knows he can't take much more and needs to deal with one of them immediately. Using one action to move the spark into his gleaming blade, he uses its Transcendence ability, making 2 strikes, the second at only a -2 penalty. Both are hits, the first dealing 7 slashing and 2 spirit, and the second dealing 11 slashing and 2 spirit, for a total of 18 slashing and 4 spirit. But wait, that's what it would be, except the Transcendence ability says it becomes all spirit damage, which means this wolf isn't resisting anything, and the damage total strikes it down and wipes the spirit from its possessed corpse, falling to bones once more. Because of the Transcendence used by Moai, he now moves it into his Scar of the Survivor, as the remaining pile of bones rushes in a flurry of howls and teeth. Striding for an action, the creature makes 2 bite attacks, but only 1 lands, dealing 4 damage. This puts Moai down to only 3 hit points, but Moai is not concerned. For a single action, he uses his Transcendence ability and heals for 1d8, in this case 6, hit points, transferring the spark once again to his blade. With his next action, he strikes, and it's a critical hit. He deals a total of 20 slashing and 4 spirit damage, obliterating the creature. The dust of shattered bones rises into the air as Moai's blade falls to his side, and he drags it on, hunting the next abomination. And there you go. There's a quick example of what an Exemplar can do in combat, moving sparks around, imminence abilities, transcendence, all of that. There are plenty of pop culture examples of this, in fact, going back forever, really, because we are demigods after all that. So think about any of your favorite demigods from whatever mythology. This is going to be very fitting. But also, more modern examples like Kratos from God of War, even some other characters like Gambit from X-Men can be a really good fit here. All kinds of characters can be made into Exemplars. What do you think? Did this make you excited to try out the Exemplar, or have you played one before and you're just thinking about new builds, new things to try? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, adventure on!